Hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe and is at home. Um, hmm. So today I'm going to discuss the topic about the economic implication of the ongoing COVID. Yeah, it has disrupted all our lives. But let us just look at it from a wholesome perspective about what happened pre-COVID and what's happening now and what's the likely future of it. So before we delve further, let's first discuss about the pre-COVID situation. So by then, India was already experiencing economic slowdown. So we know that the four engines that drive growth for a company's economy are consumption, exports, investment, and by government. And the global financial crisis has slowed down the long term growth of India, because the two engines of investment and exports have faltered a little bit. And as early as 2019 we have seen the consumption engine being stalled. And government has really taken a lot of initiatives and everything to boost the consumption. And in that meanwhile, and even afterwards, while government was taking up a lot of initiatives, the economy was in a very bad downward spiral. Like this can be explained by a vicious loop created by the interest growth differential. So let's once look at the vicious loop. Yeah. So as you can see, the reduction in consumption has driven the GDP to come down. And once the GDP has fallen, the difference between the cost of borrowing and the GDP has increased by more than 4 percentage points. What this means basically is the debt and the interest pressure has increased much more and was increasing much more than the revenue generated by a company. At least the stable companies, not the growing ones as such, but the stable companies in the economy. And this has in turn led to a lot of stress debt and NPAs. And obviously once this happens, it will lead to companies won't take aggressive growth strategies and everything. So it will in turn just lead to reduction in growth and even reduction in consumption, because people will not have any money to get, because banks are also will be a little bit more conscious to lend money. And this loop goes on, reduced growth will in turn put more pressure, more stress, and this stress will more reduce the growth of the economy. So this was a very dangerous vicious loop which India was facing at that point of time. And as so coming back, so as we can see only the government can intervene to boost the consumption and investment, because all the three, like the four pillars and all the three have faltered. So like government intervention is the only thing. But government came up with a lot of policies and monetary policy and tax cuts and everything. But if we look at it, the monetary policy can only be limitedly effective, because why the consumption reduced is something which is not really understood. And people were trying to understand at that point of time. And reduction in taxes and everything won't directly result in investment, because it follows through a transmission mechanism, and it's like it has a lot of steps involved. And seeing the current scenario, people are likely to save, and and there's likely chance that it won't be transmitted into investment. So that's why government policies are also not that effective. So government people, everybody were brainstorming around how to solve this quandary, and then the COVID crisis hit. So this has further aggravated the situation a lot. And a lot of activity throughout the country has stalled, and there's a lot of stress on the healthcare system in India, and the population density is really high, so the impact of the academic will be high. So yeah, government is taking proactive decisions, and yeah, few of them are reactive as well. And exports have also failed because of the global shutdown, and global shutdown of borders, and informal economies hit the most. And as we can see, like just before the pre-COVID, we had demand side shocks, and this time we are even having supply side shocks due to disruption of the supply chain of even the essential items, which are really important. And markets are also pretty reactive, with people either stacking up cash or just moving into more safer investments, away from the equity markets or the debt markets. I think these shocks actually have also depleted the various corporate bottom lines, and they're facing a lot of credit crunch. There's no capex now to boost growth, and like to adapt to the situation, there's a lot of downsizing being done, and people are losing a lot of jobs, and there is a huge rise in unemployment. So as we know that once unemployment decreases, inflation reduces. But though inflation reduces, maybe, but in this situation, we'll discuss further how the monetary policy won't be this helpful in this situation. And yeah, so all the things which we have discussed now are just further aggravating the vicious cycle which we have already discussed earlier, because there's no corporate capex which is happening, or there's a lot of stress debt, NPAs likely to happen. NPAs, though the government has are taking active steps towards how to reduce that. And there's like weaker consumer demand, so it's just aggravating the vicious circle which we have seen before. And then, so what should the government do at this stage to shield the economy? Because it's pretty uncertain times. You don't know what's going to happen, and yeah, government has taken few steps with respect to the stimulus packages and loan deferments and interest moratoriums, and also like income support for the unemployed and the aged, and a little bit up for the informal sector. And to improve the liquidity on the market, there's a reduction in CRRs. But yeah, but these are all just interim measures, and will they be adequate to support the economy in the long run? I still doubt it. And yeah, they are helpful in the short run, but in the long run, so let us see few challenges for the fiscal, monetary, and financial policies for the government to take, like in the near future, so that long term economic disaster doesn't happen. So think about physical. When we think about physical, due to the lockdown, most of the economic activity is being suspended, and most of these are unlikely to resume in the near future, given the nature of the health shock. And for people to come back to their previous level of consumption, just to revive the consumer confidence as such. And government so because of all this, government revenues are drastically falling, and whatever the government has set forward for disinvestment targets are unlikely to happen. Seeing the markets how they react, and it's not feasible to raise a good amount of money, profitable amount of money, with the disinvestments now as well. And whatever policy actions which you are going to take during this period are going to just involve government spending, and which is going to breach the fiscal deficit target by a big margin. And historically, India has been supporting the fiscal deficit domestically by government borrowing from the banks and other financial institutions. But given the situation outside, for the households and firms, small firms, um, to be afloat in this economy, like they are bound to borrow, and government can not take and borrow everything from a bank because it's already exceeded the amount of savings which are already there in the banks. And yeah, so government cannot increase its domestic borrowing to fund the deficit. Also, the other route, that is FII route, also has been closed because foreigners are also very risk averse in this situation. They are already pulled out a lot of money from the Indian capital markets, and because of likely increase in the physical deficit, obviously there will be an increase in downgrading of the total uh, sovereign sovereign what to say rating. So because the sovereign rating has come down, the premium which they demand is obviously going to go up, and that is going to be a huge burden for the government. So that route has also closed. So both the domestic lending and the foreign lending has routes have closed. So how should government fund this fiscal deficit is really a big question to answer in the coming future. Yeah, though global prices in oil has dropped, it's just decreased the deficit by a little amount, but whatever uh, packages they're giving or whatever they have to spend now is outweighing those. And even monetary policies cannot be used to just print money or raise interest rate because there's no activity happening. And if you print money, what happens is the fiscal it'll lead to create inflationary pressure. Though inflation is less now, but we don't know how the inflation is going to translate into long term. And because the situation is pretty uncertain, and how inflation is going to translate into long term interest rates, and how it is going to adversely impact growth. Like if we fund the fiscal deficit by printing money, then obviously we'll be defeating the whole objective of supporting the economy at this point of time. So that's not an option. um, and even in the financial sector, when this is the time for banks and NBFCs to aggressively lend to revive the economic growth, but what we're witnessing is almost all the informal economy is going to face a lot of credit crunch, and there's likely chance of increase in NPAs. And the IBC structure is pretty new for the government, so I don't know if they'll be able to sustain a huge number of companies which are going bankrupt or which are being as a non-performing assets. And it takes a lot of time to revive as well. So banks are also facing a lot of pressure from all this to fund the situation. And and even for raising capital from the private equity markets and stuff, it's really tough in the situations given how the market is reacting. And lastly, see, and with all these pressures and having inconsistencies with what the government can do, there is a temptation to ignore rules and frameworks. But this approach is not sustainable because we have spent 2 decades to put in place some good reforms with respect to the FRBN, that is physical responsibility and budget management, and inflation targeting, Basel norms, IBC. So we have these are pretty good frameworks to support the economy and to support the long term health of the economy. But we should not, in this crisis situation, we should not take any policy responses uh, that could potentially risk these frameworks. And they should be taken with a lot of care and caution. um, so we have seen the difficulties the government would face, and there's a lot of shifts as well. Shifts with, and there's lasting impacts with respect to consumer confidence. It's not going to come up as soon as the crisis ends, and this is a huge health hazard now. So it takes a lot of time to people to gain the confidence and be uh, bounce back to the pre-COVID situation. And there's a lot of supply side shocks, disruptions because of uh, you know complete disruption with respect to global supply chains. And Um, and yeah, the situation, the virtual environment and new technologies are being adopted, they're coming up, and new business portals to support. And and I think so from now, a lot of businesses also will include the pandemic risk as one of the component when valuing the company. Um, when giving loans to a company, or the government deciding on various funds allocations and everything. And there's a progress towards the decentralized global chains as well. uh, and obviously on top of all this, we'll have a lot of political ramifications which are going to happen. Don't know how it's going to play out in the next elections in uh, India, but let's see. And as the world will prepare for the new normal after the COVID, I think every stakeholders from the government to the banks to corporates need to adapt to this new reality of changing circumstances. So, example, few of the things the government can actively see is to build reforms across the value chain, starting from giving approvals, clearances, land, labor reforms to attract investment into India. Especially, they have to concentrate a lot because every country in the world is actually reviving at that stage. So India has to take more proactive steps to promote the businesses, to attract investment, and also to to help businesses to recover sharply and fastly. The restructuring window, uh, there should be a one-time restructuring window without asset reclassification, and also maybe introduction of tax-free bonds and infrastructure concessions which have stalled due to this whole impact. So infrastructure concessions and everything. And lenders also, they have a lot of data after this hit on which industries were hit for the most. So the sectoral relief packages to revive those, because they're like the industries which were hit were pretty pretty attractive and revenue generating part for the government, like hospitality, tourism, real estate, infrastructure, everything is hit. And these are very attractive uh, ventures for the government for the revenues as such, and even for the growth of the economy. So bankers have to see how to give boost these. And the entire framework with respect to bankruptcy and NPS should be looked into more detail to facilitate and avoid multiple companies becoming NPS. So these are few things I want to discuss in this video. So I think it is pretty comprehensive. We have discussed about the pre-COVID and the ongoing situation, economic situation, and ramifications for the future, and how we should handle the post-COVID crisis situation, and so that our Indian economy can revive and not go into the downward spiral or the vicious loop which we have discussed. So a lot of proactive steps should be taken by the government and everybody, like all of us, to to get the wheels of the economy going forward. Thank you.